it's the Effin Nerd Show, and today I wanted to talk about trans films. Well, sorta, kinda. I wanted to talk about a couple TV shows that deal with transness and a few movies that deal with transness, whether you know it or not. And I just wanted to do this to squeeze this in by the end of Pride Month. And also, I think there's a lot of complicated conversations online when it comes to uh, transgender people and sexual identity and uh what's the other one, gayness. I don't know. Sexual orientation. Orientation's the word I was looking for. Anyway, I I don't know how to talk about these things eloquently enough, but I think there should be a conversation and around them, and I just want to try to help add to the conversation. I want to help uh, realize some of these ideas I think are very valid, and I think what I'm going to talk about today, some of these movies, some of these TV shows, uh, actually gave me some perspectives on the trans experience that I had never even considered, and so I just want to talk about them. So first of all, I want to talk about one of my favorite movies ever, and this is a older-ish movie, not that old, like 2014-ish, I think, 2016, something like that. Swiss Army Man. Now you might be saying, Justice, is Swiss Army Man a trans movie? I don't think so necessarily, but I do think there is something in there that is very probably relatable to people in the LGBTQ community, but also just relatable to people in general. The movie, if you haven't seen it, is about Paul Dano. He's a guy stranded on an island. He tries to kill himself, but then he sees a corpse wash up onto shore, and then magically the corpse starts to fart, and he uses it as a jet ski to get off the island, and now he and the corpse must find their way back to society. What I love about this movie is it's basically about a guy, he wanted to kill himself. Probably for more reasons than just that he was stranded on an island. And he finds a corpse that is slowly coming back to life based on everything it learns about itself and learns about life. And it's obviously about, I look at it in a couple different ways, and this is sort of what I want to discuss is, I've heard of it described as like a movie about gay people accepting their gayness. People look at Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe as like two characters that are falling in love in the movie. Best friends are falling in love. I could see that perspective. There's the other perspective of, is Daniel Radcliffe even real? I think at the end they sort of confirm, yes, he's real in a sense. But also you could look at it metaphorically like, well, maybe Daniel Radcliffe is just sort of like the last thought in Paul Dano's head that's trying to keep him from killing himself. You can think about it like that. Like trying, like the last hurrah at trying to find appreciation in life, and all that jazz. That's fun. I think Paul Dano, what I love also is Paul Dano he's forced to describe everything to Manny, since it's through his romanticizations of these things of life that give Manny, he gets him excited and gives him a sense of wonder and all this jazz. So there's that. Now to get into how it could be related to trans in this. There are two scenes. I don't even know if it is related. I think it's relatable, if nothing else. There's two scenes. The first scene is when he's describing basically sexuality to Manny at all. Hank to Manny. And it's interesting because it looks into the idea of how his father was very weird about it, very constrictive about it, and his mother was more free about it and all this jazz. But also that in itself made it more of a complex for Paul Dano's character Hank, because then he's like, anytime he tries to masturbate, he thinks about his dead mom, and it's like, dang, I'm not saying that's, but I just think just the idea of complications in sexual orientation, not even just orientation, but just sexualness, like being comfortable in your sexuality at all. That's a theme in there. I think that's an interesting theme. I also think it's interesting, if you think about it, Daniel Radcliffe's character is named Manny. It's like he's maybe sort of knocking heads with his sense of being a man, because there's, if you think about that, when they're in the bus and he's sort of giving Daniel Radcliffe's Manny a chance to ask out that girl that Paul Dano has on his phone by Paul Dano dressing up as that girl. You could say that's just cross dressing this. I'm not necessarily trans this. I don't honestly know the 100% difference. I don't know if people who cross dress often lead into transness. I don't know if it's just two separate things. Like many people who cross dress don't want to be trans. Inform me in the comments. I am very much open for discussion. So yes, but there's just this thing. It's a very romantic scene between them when because Paul Dano's sort of leaning into it of them sort of falling in love and trying to give Manny that spark, clearly that spark, because like when Manny gets the guts to ask Paul Dano to get the hold his hand, basically, that's when Manny basically can make sparks with his snap of the fingers. So that's just interesting. Very interesting idea. I still think it could be just more attributed to. I think it could attribute itself more to gayness, or again, like the idea of just self love and loving yourself and accepting yourself. But I think it's even more interesting in just the idea of if you do look at Daniel Radcliffe as the representation of his manhood, and you look at him dressed as a woman as the representation of his womanhood, and them holding hands, and that creates a spark, you could look at it as that, just him coming to terms with both sides of himself, and then just becoming a more full human being because of it. I don't know. You tell me in the comments what you think about it. Swiss Army Man can be interpreted in a gazillion different ways. That it's called Swiss Army Man for a reason. One day I will do a video on the Daniels. I just want them to do like one more or two more movies, and then I will definitely do a deep dive on the Daniels. I'm hype on the Daniels. Okay, so next up, I want to talk about this new movie called I Saw the TV Glow. This movie just came out. I think you rent it on Amazon, or it might be on Amazon. I don't know. I think it literally like just came out. It's available somewhere on digital, and you can rent it or whatever. But anyway, I Saw the TV Glow. I heard about this movie from when it was in the festival circuit, however many months ago. I've been wanting to see it. I didn't know much about it. All I knew was it was David Lynch-ish, and it had Justice Smith. Us justices gotta stick together, and it also from the couple of still frames I saw, which was not much, I was very interested because it looked like it had like a 90s sort of aesthetic, and also just the title's a pretty good title. I Saw the TV Glow. That's such a good title, so beautiful. And I just like I think the poster was pretty cool. It's just a head in front of a TV, and the TV has a pink glow. Really, just I like the ambience of the whole thing. I had no idea this was going to be a movie about like transness and trans identity and all that. I had zero idea going in. Literally zero idea going in. And then when I was starting to come to terms with it, I started to get excited because I was like, what is this going to do? And it's not perfect 100%, but I do think there are so many things I do love about it. So, first of all, obviously, the Pink Opaque, the show that's in this. Okay. I should not spoil this. And I'm just now thinking I should not spoil this movie that I'm telling everybody to see that just came out. So I am going to try and be good. Alright, so let's see. In this movie, there's a fictional show called The Pink Opaque. It's kind of like a riff off. People were saying Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm like, if Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Power Rangers got together and had a baby, that's what it was. Because there are monsters in it that look like a Power Rangers monster. And this little girl and this little boy at a very young age meet. And then they sort of start to, what's the word? Bond over this show, The Pink Opaque. And they're friends, but they're not the best of, like, I don't know. They obviously have a very strong relationship, but due to their own familial situations, them hanging out is just hard. So the girl sends him tapes every once in a while to see the new episode of The Pink Opaque. After that, years and years go by, and the girl comes back, and she tells the boy. And Pink Opaque is about a two-girl superhero group, basically. And she comes back, and she asks him. She comes back basically like 10, 15 years later. Says, hey, that show we watched wasn't a show. Actually, we're the characters in that show, and this is not reality. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say because I feel like that in itself is a little bit too much of a spoiler. But what this show, what this movie did really well is it portrayed some ideas about like how it might feel when you feel like you are a trans person and having to deal with that in a just the idea of you're in a world that just does not fit. And I think it's just it communicates these ideas so well and visually and interestingly. There's a part in the movie, and people compared it to David Lynch and Twin Peaks types visuals. There are a couple times where it is like that, and this is one part. I'm going to say it because it's easier to see. It's cooler to see than for me to say, and you won't be spoiled because you gotta look at it. But the point is, there's like this crazy chopped up shot of this guy just sort of trying to run away from his dad, and he's trying to crawl into his TV, and the TV is shouting sparks, and then he starts screaming sparks out of his mouth, and it's like, how'd they do that? I had no idea how they did that. It looked good. The movie visually is amazing. Great. The ideas the movie plays with are great and interesting, and I think people need to think about them more. And like anytime people like sort of come at the idea of transness in life, they come at it from a way that just seems very just like, I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to engage with it. I don't even want to question it. I don't even want to try to understand the other person's perspective. And for me, what I love about movies is seeing other people's, like literally it's other perspectives. You're looking at you're looking at a lens. You're looking out at a world, and you're seeing a story play out in front of you, and you're supposed to take away something from it if it's good. Usually, even the worst, even the worst garbage, most popcorny, sucky movies are technically supposed to have some sort of lesson at the end of the day, or some sort of moral that you're supposed to walk away with, even if it's stupid. So, I think this is just the point of movies like this, is like, get people into that idea, into that headspace. And this is a perfect shift to another movie that you might be well aware of, called The Matrix. Na-na. I don't know why I did the X-Men theme, but The Matrix is a trans allegory, apparently. And I'm not saying apparently like some random Redditor said it, and they were like, they got like 2 upvotes or something. I don't know anything about Reddit, but I don't know. I'm not saying it like apparently, like, oh, apparently. Like, literally, one of the directors, one of the Wachowskis said, I'm glad people have seen that through, that sort of subtext through the whole thing. And I think that's an interesting idea, because when I saw the TV glow, it did make me rethink about The Matrix a little bit, because The Matrix, everybody's seen The Matrix, red pill, blue pill, and then he takes the pill and they, splits out into the Matrix, and it's like dystopia and all this jazz, whatever, etc. These ideas, just the idea of reality is malleable, is just an idea that I really think is interesting to me in general. And I think it should be interesting to everybody. The idea of like, why are we so fixated on these rules when it seems like nobody really knows or cares about the rules? Does that make sense? I don't know. And I think that's what The Matrix, like, that definitely, those ideas eroded and went crazy back when it came out. They kind of go a little too crazy to too crazy types of people these days. But at the end of the day, it's just like, what if there's a person who just realizes that they could do whatever they want? And it shouldn't be, like, it literally shouldn't matter to anybody what they're doing. And, like, if you think about the Agent Smiths policing, like, Neo, because Neo is like, I can do whatever the fudge I want, F you! It's literally, like, interesting. I hadn't thought about it in that perspective. Now, also, the red pill, blue pill thing, I don't know if I heard it from a Wachowski, or if I saw it online, but the idea of, like, maybe the red pill, blue pills are, like, representative of like estrogen pills. Like when Neo takes a pill, uh, like maybe it's like a metaphor of him like for or at least for one of the Wachowskis. I know another thing is so the Wachowskis are trans. They're trans sisters. Uh, they but they transcended. What's the word? They I don't know, but they switched at different times. Only one of them was trans or out as trans. I'm so sorry, everybody. Out as trans at the time when they were making the Matrix, and then a few years later, the other one did. So I don't know. I don't know why I brought that up. Yeah. The point is, one of them was obviously going through an experience of like trying to, be trans or transness at the time. So maybe the pills are a metaphor for estrogen pills. I don't even know. I just thought that was an interesting idea. And you can look up an interview with Lily Wachowski or Lana Wachowski talking about this. So I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt. The people who wrote and directed the movie call it a trans allegory. So F you, leave me alone. If you're mad at me, don't be mad at me, please. Anyway, I want to move on to TV. So one of my favorite shows ever made. No. One of F you. My favorite show ever made is Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol and The Leftovers. But Doom Patrol serves, like, when I think of a TV show, like a show that where you watch it, you could watch anyone, anytime, and get all you want from that one episode. That's Doom Patrol. The Leftovers is like my prestige option. That's my favorite prestige option. Doom Patrol is my favorite, like, you can watch a Monster of the Week type deal. Doom Patrol deals a lot with sexual orientations and why am I saying it? I feel like I'm saying it all robotic or also just non comfortable to listen to. You just tell me. Maybe I'm being too self-conscious. I need to drink coffee, maybe. I should drink coffee more. Anyway, there is an episode, and it's my favorite episode. It's not my favorite. There's so many great episodes in Doom Patrol that I could probably do a 1,000-year-long podcast about every episode. But one of my favorites is in the first season, and it was probably one of the episodes where I was like, this is effing amazing, is Danny Patrol. And in this episode, Doom Patrol come across a sentient street named Danny, who is also gender queer, I think. Which means, I think they just agender, I guess? I don't know, something like that. It's a street. It's a literal street on the road. It's a road. But it's Danny. And Danny is pretty cool. Danny is the coolest character probably in all of Doom Patrol. Because Danny, as a street, just takes in outsiders and lets them live on his street. They're the Dannysons. And in this episode, you sort of see a flashback of this man who is like a uptight sort of government facility type soldier guy, goes into Danny the street, and then he absolutely falls in love with it, and then however many years later becomes Moira E. Corrupt. And she is like, I guess she's kind of like the leader of the Dannysons. Like, Danny is the street, but you need somebody to effing, keep everybody in line. So she runs a nightclub type situation, and one of the Doom Patrol, Larry, he's gay, but he's very closeted because he grew up in the 50s. It's very complicated. But anyway, he goes in there and he sort of imagines himself singing on stage at this club and all this junk, and he's like very proud of himself, and he's like, oh my god, yes. And then flashes back to him just sitting there, not actually, he's just too scared to go up on stage, and he's like, I don't sing. And then he leaves. It's a great scene, you should go watch it, I don't know. But in this episode, especially, Moira E. Corrupt is then bombarded by more soldiers that from the whatever evil government soldier program she came from. And then they come in and they sort of like, you can't do this. And then she beats their butt, and he's like, I'm Moira E. Corrupt, and F you. And it's a really good episode. It's one of the best episodes of Doom Patrol. I just want to talk about Doom Patrol because it's even written by that guy who does a lot of comic books. No, Grant Morrison. Yes. And Grant Morrison, I think, is non-binary. Non-binary, I think? Something like that. And very much likes to delve into the idea of, just gender fluidity and just a strange fella also in general. definitely likes to play around with what ideas are even. So it's a whole thing. Go look up Grant Morrison if you don't know. And then I want to bring up one last a TV show that came out not long ago called Baby Reindeer. I did watch this when it came out, and everybody was all the jazz about it, but I just didn't bring it up because I don't know. I was too lazy. Baby Reindeer is actually really good, and I think what I love most about Baby Reindeer is how there's a whole hubbub about the real life lady Martha, the real life Martha, quotes Martha, from the show, and also the comedian of the show and how he wrote it and all this stuff. And I'm not going to really get into that because regardless of what is real or what isn't real in that show, what I really appreciate about that show is the complexities it leads into about like the different weird the weird little crazies that everybody has in themselves. So the crazy guy in everybody. Because Martha isn't necessarily the most like she's villainized, but she's not as villainized as any other show would maybe make her. And he also makes himself come off as a effing weirdo who does some weird effing things sometimes. I really appreciate that because like if I was somebody who would make a TV show, I'd definitely say, no, I was awesome, I was cool, I did nothing wrong. And he did some things wrong, I guess, but yes. But in the show, he has a big complex with himself about dating a trans woman. And it actually I think it really plays into the overall themes of the show very well if you watch the show. Based on just the premise I just said. Anyway, just the idea of him, he has like he's struggling with his sexuality. Like he's like, oh, do I like trans women? Do I like men? Do I like women? All this stuff. And I just thought how it was dissecting those things was very interesting because you don't see that a lot in a lot of TV shows about just a guy just sort of like having to combat uh, these different ideas that aren't popular amongst other men. But that's what the whole show also deals with. It's like he's getting stalked and all that stuff, and when he tells his guy friends about it, they don't take him seriously. And I think it's honest about like, you know, you can't really have a wholly serious conversation with some guys sometimes. And I think that's something that they portray in that very well. What else? What else? What else? But that's the thing. So yeah, the thing most about Baby Reindeer is the trans woman that he dates is probably the character that comes off the best in the show because she's actually a normal person who, like, anytime the main guy in Baby Reindeer comes up to her being like, this girl, she keeps following me, this woman, she keeps following me. She's like, well, why don't you just go to the police, do this, do that? Like, always lists off a list of things he could be doing to prevent this from happening, and he just F's up every step of the way. And the reason I bring this up is because instead of a character that is a joke, instead of a character that, I don't know, maybe seems like victim-y, which I'm not saying there isn't any victimhood in some of this, but, you know, I think when it comes to, like, black films and TV shows, when you're watching the same, like, gangster or slave narrative be played over and over in TV, you sort of get tired of it. It is refreshing to see a trans character in a movie or a TV show who has agency, who is the moral compass of the show, and also, like, overall, you know, you kind of feel the worst for because of, you know, things she didn't ask for just happening to her. I just thought that was very interesting, and they really actually delve into her perspective and of how it feels to be a trans person moving through the world that I thought was, you know, eloquently voiced. And I don't think, I just don't know. You know, I think some of the, if you think in your head the most famous trans representation in a movie or TV show, you're probably thinking of a, you know, a cisgender guy doing drag, pretty much, right? This is an actual trans woman playing a trans woman, and it's just, I don't know, you don't see it in a lot of stuff, and I think that's interesting. So yeah, that's it. I don't know if you're gonna get. I don't know if anybody's gonna get angry. I hope this is appreciated. I don't know. Not appreciated like I deserve all the appreciations, but I just did. I just want to. I wanted to put some words on the thing with appreciation on the topic of trans people, and not just the topic, but of, you know, I just wanted to show, you know, I like the perspectives. I want to learn more, and I think we all need to learn more about things we don't necessarily understand. I'm not saying I don't understand. I think I understand more now than I did before. But then only. I'm gonna stop digging my hole. All right, that's it. Like, subscribe, please, please like and subscribe, and please unsubscribe. And I don't apologize. Oh, by the way, I don't apologize to anybody who is offended. By the way, if you are offended, f you. But I'm just saying, I I have more content on the way if you want to see if there's more stuff. But if I've lost you forever, oh well. Goodbye. See ya. All right. Goodbye.